Coming at you live and in full Technicolor from FantasySixPack.net World Headquarters. Once again, it's the Two Guys, One Roto Show. And I am joined, as always, by my tag team partner, Rich Sayre. Hello, Rich.
Hey, Dave. Good to be back.
Good to see you, sir. How are you tonight?
I'll say I'm doing well.
You say you're doing well. Based on our conversation pre-show, I think that's perhaps a bit of a generous way of putting it, but I appreciate you joining me nevertheless. For those of you viewers at home watching us on the YouTube show, yes, I am wearing a Miami Heat shirt and a New York Yankees hat. And I won't bore you with the story because you wouldn't appreciate it anyway, and that would be not the content you came here for. So today's episode, folks, pretty simple. What we're doing tonight is the show is kind of a mixed bag. It's a buy sell of a hot or a slow start or stretch. Are we believers? Are we worried? What's going on with the guy either lately or on the whole season? Whatever. So we're going to run through 8 players, kind of a mixed bag of pitchers and hitters. Interestingly, not to give away the goat here, but only one outfielder somehow ended up among the 8 players. But anyway, that's just the players we picked. As always, Two Guys, One Roto is brought to you by FantasySixPack.net. Again, FantasySixPack.net. If you jump on over to Fantasy Six Pack and become an all-access member, you're going to get access to our award-winning rankings, our projections, our custom league and team advice via our Discord, which Rich and I are frequenting probably too often throughout the day for our employers' benefit. But anyway, if you join FantasySixPack.net/plans and use the promo code F6PMLB25, you're going to save 15% off an already great price. So can't recommend it highly enough. If you can't get enough of me and Rich, seek medical help. But no, also, if you can't get enough of me and Rich's fantasy baseball advice, then definitely join over there. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeartRadio or any number of other locations, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, follow us as always on Twitter and on Blue Sky. I am at DW the Original. Rich, you are?
I am at R for Richard, Sayre 04.
R Sayre 04. And just a couple things. I wanted to take a minute in light of some events that happened this morning. Wanted to shout out our friends over at Fantrax. Fantrax, we have had a long-standing partnership with at FantasySixPack.net. We had during the season. You can get a discount off of signing up your league over there. We don't have anything going like that just now because obviously we're kind of in the middle of, where people are signing up seasons. But they had a minor outage this morning in the wee hours of the morning, and people were going absolutely berserk on Twitter. And, why is this down? And this happens way too often. And I kind of jumped in and said, guys, go just get a cup of coffee, people. What's wrong? It's fantasy baseball. I mean, I host a fantasy baseball podcast. This isn't that big of a deal. They remedied the issue in no time. They're the industry leader for a reason. I can't recommend Fantrax highly enough. So again, our friends at Fantrax, check them out. If you're not already using them for your league site, you're doing your league a disservice. Rich, anything to add on Fantrax?
Anybody, that's been in one of those other leagues for a while that's wondering, should I make the move? The answer is yes. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's simple as that. The customizable features, the minor leaguers, all the different head-to-head formats that they have. It's pretty incredible. And then last thing to wrap up before
the player, the number of players that they have available, but not only that, the information on the players, matchups, all of it is there. Jump around to other sites as we're in different leagues, and you're like, well, what am I doing?
Right. Yes. So, yes, where are my Fantrax features?
Yeah.
So, and then last thing, I just again, I started this last week. We're going to start each show with a fun baseball quote, and this one's actually not a tongue-in-cheek one as much as like last week's one was. Today is Eric Davis's birthday. It's also Paul Skeen's birthday, which is kind of incredible that the two of them share a birthday. So, for those of you looking to have children, I suggest May 29th is a good day. But today's quote comes from the legendary Eric Davis. And it's a pretty good one. He says it takes a lot of energy to be negative. You have to work at it, but smiling is painless. I'd rather spend my energy smiling. And I thought that was a pretty fantastic quote. Also, I'd be remiss. Eric Davis's best 162 game stretch. Okay, so just any cross section of 162 games that he played consecutively. Now, this is over the course of 2 seasons, because as we all know, he struggled with injuries throughout his career. But 659 plate appearances, 308, 406, 622, 47 homers, 149 runs, 123 RBI, and 98 steals, like blowing Ronald Acuna Jr. out of the water in the same, 162 game sample size. Not to say he's better than Ronald Acuna Jr., but he's definitely one of the consummate what if he had stayed healthy guys. So anyway, anything to add on Eric Davis, Rich? I imagine you're not a huge 80s baseball guy, but anything to add?
No, it's an interesting tie-in that you reference Ronald Acuna Jr. there, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right. So we're going to get into I was not a big fan of the show Friends. Actually, believe it or not, viewers at home and listeners, I have never seen a single episode of Friends, soup to nuts. I've seen bits and pieces of one, but I've never seen a single episode.
You're not a fan if you've never seen it.
Well, that's true. I suppose I don't know if I'm a fan or not, but bottom line is I've never seen a single show. But so this is Joey. What is the character's name? Joey. What's his last name? Do we know? Whatever. Joey. This is the How You Doing show. So the How You Doing show is what we're doing here. And Rich, we've got 8 players to pick from. So I'm going to let you. Obviously, what we're going to do is I'm going to toss it out. We kind of actually have. We played a couple different roles here at Two Guys One Roto. Rich is a little bit better at looking things under the hood, analyzing the stats, analyzing things like the swing rate or the chase rate for pitchers or that kind of stuff, whatever. I'm much more into the narrative, and they just changed their swing path, or they just saw their, like Junior Caminero I referenced in last week's article, brought in his hitting coach from the Dominican. And I don't know, I may be a little more in tune with the news than Rich is. That's not to say that one's right, wrong, or the otherwise, but so I'm going to toss it out to Rich, and then Rich is going to give us a good under the hood analysis. So how does that sound, bud?
I love it. Let's try it.
Perfect. So, all right. So we are going to start with a player that you don't like very much, at least as far as I know. And we're going to start with, yes.
Don't give it away.
We're going to start with the one outfielder that we have. And as my friends Arcade Fire say, sort of, in the month of May, this player has hit 8 home runs, which is good for 7th in the National League. He's 7th in the National League in slugging in May as well. He can't field worth a damn, but what do we really care about that? Obviously, talking about none other than Gavin Sheets. So, Rich, what do you got to say about Gavin Sheets, sir?
Instant reaction is I was done with this guy probably 2 years ago, but having a great year this year. A lot of talk, I think, about Gavin Sheets in the spring, saying, hey, this guy may be something on the Padres. Easy to write that off, maybe. I mean, hey, look at the last, 1,300 at bats, 1,200 at bats. You kind of know what you're getting there, but a little bit of a different story here this year. So taking a quick look, the first thing that I typically look for if somebody's outperforming is, what are they running as a BABIP? That's an easy one. By the way, Fangraphs, fantastic resource. We are not sponsored by Fangraphs, but I'm sure anybody that's probably listening to this podcast is familiar with Fangraphs. But fantastic site outside of Fantasy Six Pack, where you get a ton of information across all your sports. Fangraphs, a great baseball only type of site. Ton of information there. They're adding stuff as far as metrics, statistics every day. That's a big resource that I use. I'm jumping in there now. You take a look. I don't see much difference in the walk and the K rates. A lot more power this year. BABIP is certainly fine. So nothing really sticks out to me on the surface level. Big increase in your average EV, not so much max EV. Big increase in your hard hit rate. So those are all super positive signs. How did we get there? I don't know if there's a narrative that goes along with this, different swing coach, something like that. Went to Driveline, any of those stories.
Right.
is actually making less contact than he had before. So anecdotally, you could say he's tried to turn up the power. It looks everything looks sustainable at this point. So believe it or not, I'm going to say this has probably got some legs to it and could keep going.
Okay.
I have to maybe take a look and see, do we have any more bat speed, anything else like that? But I'm going to say, despite my initial gut reaction, looks pretty solid.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's actually, though, let me ask you this, Rich. When I was looking at the more cursory stats or whatever, I felt like Gavin Sheets' walk rate was lower than it had been in previous years. Is it possibly true?
Yeah, that's another thing that caught my eye. Let's see if the swing is up overall. No, it's actually down. I think he's just hunting, trying to sell out for some power, and it's working. Maybe a little bit of the page out of the Dalton Varsho book for this year as well. But it looks pretty solid, even though the contact is down. He's still at 75%. That's certainly fine if you're going to be a power hitter. So as far as the complete package, maybe you'd like a little bit more on base, but certainly seems to have gone from a negative offensive drain to somebody that's contributing to the offense at this point.
Yeah, no doubt. And the interesting, just to wrap it up with, or to tuck in Gavin Sheet, okay, is that I saw a tweet today that was something to the effect of, imagine telling a White Sox fan 2.5 years ago that Eloy Jimenez, Jose Abreu, and Tim Anderson would all be out of baseball, and Gavin Sheets would be hitting, among the league leaders in home runs. I don't even know how you possibly begin to explain that to somebody. But good news is we don't have a time machine. We don't have to do that. So, all right. So let's move on to our second player. Rich, I'm gonna let you have dealer's choice or whatever, or whatever you want to call it. You want a pitcher or a hitter next, sir?
Let's go pitching.
Let's go pitching. Okay. So I like this one a lot. This is a former top 5 prospect in baseball. Completely has come into his own this year. He's tied with Yamamoto in Fangraphs WAR. His 2-5 record belies his underlying stats. You probably have already figured out who I'm talking about. It's MacKenzie Gore.
I wrote about MacKenzie earlier this year. I think as far as sustainable or not, a hot start piece. And my conclusion at the time was that we may now be looking at a certifiable ace. He's been taking steps forward slowly, a little bit at first. Big step forward in the K's looking right now. And that's something that's was not at that level when I wrote about this a little bit earlier. Everything looks completely legitimate here. He's maybe getting a little bit lucky with stranding runners. But on the other hand, he's got a little bit of a higher BABIP. Those things probably offset each other. Fifth is 281. Looks like he's here. I would say legitimate.
Yeah, no, MacKenzie Gore is so MacKenzie Gore is, to me, and those of you who play in rotisserie leagues or head-to-head category leagues, you're going to have to forgive us because we are points leagues, folks, and our points leagues in particular tend to favor things like innings pitched and strikeouts and that kind of thing. Not quite Otnu scoring, but it's pretty darn close. It devalues things like a pitcher win. MacKenzie Gore, if there were if there were a pitcher this year thus far that would convince you to say, hey, listen, maybe we shouldn't be using pitcher wins as a category, it's a 2-5 MacKenzie Gore who's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. I just totally agree. Isn't the strikeouts per 9 up to like 14?
It's 13 plus. The swinging strike rate is off the page. I was just going to take a quick look as you were chatting there. I don't know if I'll get there quick enough to see where he ranks in the league at the moment. And I'm not going to hold up the show for that, but yeah, he's close to 16% swing strike rate, which is very good for a starter. So yeah, all very positive things there.
Yep. No, so MacKenzie Gore, bona fide ace, invest. So All right, let's move on to a hitter. Now, for this one, you can have a middle infielder, or you can have a like a third baseman / outfielder. What do you want?
The third baseman outfielder piques my interest.
Third baseman outfielder piques your interest. Okay, so it's third baseman outfielder, and recently developing first baseman. So not a swing change, but a stance change on April 22nd.
Okay.
Since then, he's batting 316, 382, and 607 slug with 8 homers and 20 ribbies. Some might say, not all prospect development is linear. What say you, Rich, about Miguel Vargas?
Miguel Vargas, I wrote it as you were giving your intro.
There you go. Okay.
I think he's fine. That's a little bit of a hedge. I had written this guy off when you light up the minor leagues, but you can't get playing time on the Dodgers. The Dodgers trade for
Kopech.
No, they traded for a guy that is terrible. Cavan Biggio. Apologies to Cavan Biggio.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Okay.
When they trade for him and they want to start him over you, and then they jettison you to the White Sox, I'm generally a fan of reading between the lines what the real team is trying to tell you, and they're trying to tell you that this guy can't play, and that's what it looked like for last season on the White Sox. 46 WRC plus between the two teams. So I had written this guy off. As he is right now, even after a slow start, he's got a 118 WRC plus. When is your inflection point, if you will?
April 23rd is where you want to start.
April 23rd.
Yep.
Let's take a look at that. That looks all very good. One of the things that you can't really fake is, you can to an extent, but you can't fake 8 home runs in that period of time.
Right.
So that part of it is legit. When you go along with that, he's not, again, running a high BABIP, and I think his contact is actually pretty solid. Let's go to that. Yeah, so even over that stretch, he's got an 86.5% contact rate, which is very good for somebody hitting for that type of power. 6% swing strike rate, 21% outside swing. That's going to be pretty solid. That's where Ben Rice was earlier in the season when everyone was talking about him making pretty good swing decisions. I don't see anything here, as much as I'd like to get to one where I'm going to say no. I think this looks pretty legitimate. Now, not to say he's going to keep up a 300 type ISO for the rest of the season and be a 40+ home run hitter.
Right.
But I wouldn't write this stretch off to just luck. I think there's something there. He is only 25. He did crush the minor leagues. I don't know what the big issue was initially, but it more so with pitchers. But I guess we got our hitter version here of I moved my finger a couple inches, and
Now I'm the literally changing your batting stance on one day, not in the middle of the season, but 3 weeks into the season, and now I'm one of the best hitters in baseball. So yeah, pretty incredible. Miguel Vargas, a big fan, or he has a big fan in Keith Law. He actually mentioned him in his chat today when he was talking about the prospects list that he just released and whatever. Somebody asked him if Miguel Vargas' start was sustainable, and he said there's no way I can answer that with any degree of levity. Like this, I like the guy too much. I'm rooting for him too much. So we'll see. So all right. Let's jump to a player that I think you're probably not going to like as much. Okay.
All right.
And this is, you're probably going to, as soon as I give the intro, you're probably going to know who I'm talking about. So I am fond of, as you may be aware of, Rich, of saying that players are taking the leap. And I think this dude just did it in May. He had he's a pitcher. He had a 2.84 FIP. He's had 9.7 strikeouts per 9, but most importantly, he had a by far way lower than his career number, 2.11 walks per 9. Talking about none other than Edward Cabrera. So I'm going to ask you to look under the hood at Edward Cabrera, but most specifically, if you can, Rich, let's look at May in particular. Like, did something change in May? Because his last 4 starts is where he really got the walks under control.
Interesting. This is almost like the pitching version of Gavin Sheets.
Yeah.
Always had killer stuff. I had a big issue locating it. So that's the question. We got a pretty similar fastball velocity. There's nothing that jumps out overall that you would say he's getting lucky as far as stranding runners or BABIP or any of those elements. What is the date that we want to look at?
Just May.
Okay.
The month of May.
Okay.
I think he made 4 starts over the month of May, if I'm not mistaken.
Before we do that, so he's got close to 300 innings coming in over 4 seasons with pretty terrible walk and not great home run rates. So let's take a look, as you pointed out, May 1st, and see what we have from that point on. 2.11 walks per 9, as you pointed out. So that's definitely driving, some very positive results. I think we want to look at a zone percentage, maybe first pitch strike. Let's see what he's doing. I don't know if I can get there from this split, but I can do it for the season pretty easily. So no big improvement, actually not a little bit of a drop off from last season on first pitch strike, but overall the zone percentage for all count is taking a pretty sizable jump. He was in the low 40s, went up to 46.5% last year, 52.5% right now.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that does point to getting a little bit better control, and sometimes that's all you need when you have this monster stuff. If you can get a little bit, if you get ahead in the count a little bit earlier, maybe tunnel your pitches a little bit better, you start getting, the opportunity to have hitters expand the zone. They're not swinging more overall. They're not really chasing more either. So it is, I guess, really all about limiting those walks and keeping the ERA down via not having people on base.
How are we doing with keeping the ball in the yard?
So
small sample size, obviously, here, but
that's about the same as well. I mean, really the walk rate's the only thing that's would say meaningfully changed.
Okay.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. He's throwing a 4-seam much less than he had in the past. The sinkers, the primary pitch right now, which is kind of interesting. So he swapped out the 4-seam, going to the sinker 26%, slider more than he has been the last couple of seasons. So he's got a mix that's working right now. The sinker and the slider are driving that, and he must be able to land those, at least one of those in the zone more than he had his 4-seamer.
Yeah. So, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, and I'll try to remember to link to it when this gets posted to the Twitterverse and so on and so forth. But Rob Friedman of the pitching ninja fame, in Cabrera's last start threw a 96-mile-an-hour changeup, which I don't even know what to make heads or tails of that. But I don't really know if it was actually a changeup or not. I don't care. Rob Friedman says it was a changeup. It's a changeup. So, anyway, bottom line is, Edward Cabrera. So, what are we doing? We buying or selling? What do you think?
I don't see anything that I would point to as being illegitimate, so to speak, in the results. But I'm not sold. This is a 3.5-ish game run here.
Yeah.
And you got the White Sox, the Cubs, a very good team that he did pretty well against, and the Angels in that mix. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm not buying in.
Not buying it. Okay, fair enough. Actually, this one reminds me of a friend of the show, Sean Fenty, which he has always had to remind me of players play to the back of their baseball card. But that also includes hot stretches and cold stretches, right? So maybe Edward Cabrera is in the middle of a hot stretch that's just going to precede a 6-start cold stretch, or maybe not. Maybe he has taken the lead.
I think you can build the narrative around the pitch mix change, but we'll see.
We'll see. So, all right. Moving right along, we're going to move on to our mutual favorite player. You already know who I'm talking about, Rich. It's our mutual man crush. But like the Highlander, there can only be one. So he's still not getting any run versus left-handed pitching, which is only going to be exacerbated when Andres Jimenez comes off the IL here shortly. But a 125 WRC plus in May will play, I believe. And I'm talking, of course, about Addison Barger. Rich Sayre, Addison Barger.
If you are somebody that lives on Twitter and you follow baseball analysts or Twitter versions of baseball analysts and you like StatCast page screen caps, then you've probably seen Addison Barger with a lot of red lines on his StatCast. All of it looks very solid. He has great power. If you want to go into a narrative, a little bit of a swing change went back to, I think, his old swing from seasons past that he feels a little bit more comfortable with. So the contact is good. You got a little bit of the narrative element. 90 plus percentile in bat speed, 98 percentile in hard hit rate, 99 percentile in average exit velocity. Pretty solid in squared up. Any of these metrics you want, barrel, very good. Not chasing excessively, not whiffing excessively. He's got solid enough contact. And he's been okay. I wouldn't say he's crushing it right now. So it's interesting whether he'll get a hold on this job. And I think over time, that he's somebody that's going to put up solid numbers. He's got all the predictive elements under the hood, but I can't say that I've really seen it to the point that he's a lock to play full-time the rest of the season. I think he's even been not bad against lefties historically in the minor leagues, but he's on kind of that line where it could go either way at this point. If you're, into the analytics and you're into the metrics, I think you're probably very happy to buy in. If not, you're probably wondering what all the fuss is about. We'll see how it plays out. I like him. I've avoided many trade offers for him to keep him on my team in our shared league. So I am buying in, but I understand that there's a little bit of skepticism in that we haven't really seen the actual traditional stats come through. Right. A lot of metric talk right now.
Yeah. Barger, I wonder if is thus far anyway. I wonder if a good way of describing it would be almost like less than the sum of his parts, right? Like all these great bat speed and exit velocities and hard hit and all that stuff, whatever, and yet the numbers are fine. They're fine, whatever. And if I'm not mistaken, he's not an especially great. He's not a bad defender, but he's not an especially great defender either.
He's 3.5 runs above average right now.
Oh, okay. I'm mistaken then. Okay, gotcha. Well, they do have.
He's got a really strong arm. So whether that's in right field or whether that's at third base,
right?
I think that's something he's got in his bag. StatCast has him as pretty good range as well, 80th percentile. I'm not sure what position this is. It's probably a third base. So
yeah, we'll see. Yeah. He's an interesting one because I guess kind of to underline the point you were making is that all of his metrics look great. And the numbers are not necessarily what you might hope for given the metrics. And that's fine as long as he keeps it up. The team is, I'm sure, got better metrics than we do. And we'll say, hey, he's still hitting the piss out of the ball. We're going to leave this guy up here. but the margin for error is probably pretty razor thin for him. He loses even 10% of that, and he might be finding himself back at Buffalo. Yep. So anyway, Buffalo is AAA for Toronto. In case anyway, that doesn't matter. All right. So we've got 2 left to go. Neither one of which are going to be an especially fun journey down predictive road. I'm going to go with the first one. Is I am retiring a 2-show segment. Okay, you already know who I'm talking about, Rich. After his rather dejected comments of late, and I don't know if you saw this, Rich. Royce Lewis is the player in question.
Yeah.
He was quoted as saying, "I've lost all hope." When a player says that, okay, I'm not going to beat up on you. Like, that's terrible. Like, I feel bad for the guy. So what I'm hoping is that you can give us some good news. He's a former number 1 overall pick. Obviously, we know the health concerns. Let's not talk about that. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, he stays on the field for at least a reasonable amount of games. Give us some good news. Give us some reason to believe that he's going to turn his season around.
I hadn't heard that. Yeah, that's a little disheartening to hear from the player themselves.
Yeah, former number 1 overall pick. I mean, probably has had success everywhere he's ever been. Obviously, he's dealt with myriad injuries, whatever. And then now, pretty much since the All-Star break of last year, has been a sub-replacement level player, even when he's played, which has been few and far between.
So, yeah, running a 17 WRC plus right now, which is a little rough. That means 83% worse than league average for the math savants out there. The first thing that jumps out to me is the BABIP is very low. It's 148. So you would think there's some positive regression there. You think there's probably some bad luck to this point baked into that number. That being said, the line drive rate, which is your biggest BABIP driver, is not great. It's 14.5%. That's pretty low. Ground ball, fly ball rate, not so bad. Home run per fly ball, less than 4% right now. Historically, he's been 15 to 20% type range. So is he hitting the ball not as hard, not as much exit velo? It's actually right about 90 miles an hour. That's what he was in 22 and 23. Less than that last year when he had the rough year last year. At first glance, this looks like a lot of bad luck. He's got a better contact rate than he had the last 2 years. His zone contact rate is over 90%, best it's been in his career. So he's making contact with the ball. He is not chasing an outrageous amount. It's 28%, less than it was last year, less than it was in 22. So it looks like bad luck. Now, what does that bounce back to? It's probably not that run we saw in 23 over 50, 60 games.
Right.
But it's not a guy that is wondering if he's going to be in the league anymore. So I think there's upside there. I'm not sure what it would bounce up to. You're always going to have, I don't know what period of time that he wouldn't be injured where you wouldn't have injury concerns at this point. But you always have that element in the back of your head. It's not a scenario where I would say, hey, let's go out and run and buy this guy. But I do think there's some positive regression coming in the form of just batting average in general and some luck on his fly balls.
Okay, let's hope so. He actually kind of echoed the same sentiment that you just said, in citing his statistics and that kind of thing. He was saying he said something to the effect of, they keep telling me if I hit the ball hard, good things are going to happen, but nothing good is happening. So I don't know what's.
That I heard. Yeah, that's the quote.
Tough stuff. So this is a fun show. So Royce Lewis, let's hope you get on a rolls.
We're going to change the vibes right here. We're going to send some positive vibes, and
we're sending nothing but positivity, especially on the heels of the Eric Davis quote, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Wrapping up our 8-player segment for today. We're doing a little bit shorter show than usual today. We don't have a guest, and we're recording a little bit later in the week. So we hope you are loyal and loving listeners will forgive us for a little bit shorter episode. But the last player is, I'm going to say there's no other way to put it. He's just been an absolute mess. He's striking out a ton. Only his hard hit, launch angle sweet spot, and walk percentages are in the red zone. He's got 26 hits, 26 total hits in 44 games since opening day weekend. I am talking about none other than Matt McLain. So what do you think about Matt McLain, Mr. Sayre?
That's an interesting one. And I hadn't looked at Matt McLain at all. So let's take a look.
Yeah. Well, why would you, given the stats I just gave you?
Well, I know the Reds in general are not in an enjoyable space right now on the hitting side of things.
Yep.
That's a little bit of a rough ride. And it's, from what I recall, even worse than the raw numbers, because there's like a handful of games where they put up a ton of runs. And then there's been a lot of droughts in between. So I'm looking at it now. He had a lot of fanfare coming off of his 2023, where he had that pretty solid slash line. He's got 293, 60, 510 ish, and was that's his age 23 season. People are looking for the breakout. Now, you look at that, for me, I see a really high BABIP, so maybe was in line for some regression to begin with. He had a 385 BABIP that year, missed all of 24. He's got a 238 BABIP, so we're almost at the kind of other end of the extreme there. He's gotten a little bit better in the walk department, but also striking out a little bit more. That could be
mistaken, right?
The strikeouts were high in 23 as well. They were close to 28 and a half. He's 31 and a half this year. So definitely an increase there. I would be curious to see if he's a little bit more passive. No, the swing percentage pretty similar. He's not chasing a ton. Contact, he's just having some issues on contact outside of the zone. In zone contact is not fantastic either. So that seems to be legitimate. I don't know why the BABIP would be so low. He's got a pretty solid exit velo. Max EV is okay. Almost 50% hard hit rate. So it doesn't seem to lead to that low of a BABIP. He is hitting almost 50% fly balls, and if you don't have that home run power necessarily, you're probably hitting a lot of fly balls to the outfield, which have a very low expected batting average. So again, I think he's a guy that there is some positive regression possibly baked in. He's not hitting for much power this year, lower than he has in any of his minor league stops. So I think that might come up a little bit, even though he's not a huge power guy, probably average type power guy. I think there's a little bit of positive regression maybe baked in here, but I also don't think you should be expecting that 2023 season to come back. There was, I think, a little bit of luck baked into that as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder if you were talking about the BABIP being so low and whatever, and I don't have the StatCast page up now, but when I was looking at it, I seem to recall that his all his his lack of red, for lack of a better way of putting it, that for me, not being quite as analytically inclined as you are, Rich, for me it's just you're just not impacting the ball. Like your BABIP is going to be lower because you're not hitting the ball very hard, and maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know, but that's just my take.
Yeah, no. So the expected batting average is not much higher than his actual. So it's probably, the only counter to that is that he's got a pretty solid hard hit percentage. So that's good. He's not great bat speed. Probably not the best launch angles. 15% is not bad. I don't know. It's maybe just not great quality right now. Maybe he's not far off from making a tweak and getting. I think like what you said earlier, there's kind of like not a huge margin of error for this type of.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you're on the wrong side of that, things could look not great pretty quickly, or maybe you're on the right side of that and you get some of the luck like he had in his rookie season.
Yeah, that's fair. So I do wonder with the whole Cincinnati Reds team, frankly, except for Austin Hayes, apparently, if they aren't pressing a bit. The Cincinnati Reds coming into today's action were the 9th worst home team by WRC Plus offensively. I don't know how you can possibly do that in Great American Ballpark, but they were 11% worse than the average.
Yeah.
So that team's just not a lot of fun. I'm going to mess up the stat, but it's something like they're something like 23-5 when they score at least 4 runs, which is not a lot of runs to score. Right. So that speaks more to the fact that how often they're scoring fewer than 4 runs than it does speaks to their success when they are scoring 4 runs. But anyway, so all right. Any closing thoughts, Rich? Anyone else you want to talk about for that matter? I'm sorry, I usurped the A. Is there anybody you wanted to bring up?
No, I was just noticing that we're coming into week 10 or 11 in your fantasy leagues. If you're in a points league or a league that has a playoffs at the end of the season, you're close to halfway through your season. That was a little bit surprising for me to realize as I'm looking at my lineup maybe for next week. Got a little bit more time in your standard roto leagues, but season's flying by.
The season is flying by. And breaking news, not really breaking news because you won't be listening to this live, but breaking news, Matthew Lugo optioned to AAA Salt Lake City. Mike Trout will be activated tomorrow. Rich, your favorite player?
No, I wish Trout nothing but the best. Hopefully he stays healthy. I really don't think anybody should be planning on that or betting on that. But what a bizarre franchise the Angels are.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So, well, great. Another great show, Rich. I appreciate your time. And listeners, appreciate you guys tuning in. Rich, any parting thoughts?
No, thanks for teeing everything up, Dave. Appreciated that. Had fun on this one.
Yeah, thanks very much. We'll catch you guys next week.